Happy Friday.
Here we go.
Happy Friday.
Oh my goodness.
So many things have happened since last we saw each other. Hey, Julie.
Oh,
whoa.
Hi, Julie.
Beeler's here. I got another mushroom master.
Hello.
Oh, no, Julie, keep it on the down low. Julie Beeler's not here.
Oh my God, Julie Wiener.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Ximena.
I'm okay.
Take a breath. Take a breath.
Oh, it's Julie Beeler. I saw, as I was sending the reminder messages to everyone, I saw Julie's name there. I was like, oh yeah. I always love when I see former Feedback Friday presenters come on.
There's more. I see
Yeah, there are.
Samantha Verone in the waiting room.
Oh, Samantha Verone. Yeah, great. I don't know where she is here, but who else was there? Oh. Yeah, there were, I saw you quickly, Samantha. Off your video off and on. Oh.
It's like a strobe light.
It's like
Samantha strobe light.
Samantha's strobing. There she there she is.
We are good.
You think?
No.
You think we're good?
Well, I mean, we're sincere. We mean well.
We mean well. We might not always come across as meaning well, but we do mean well. CC's here. Oh, there's Deb. I like when Peter is always there with like that red background and it shouts out every time I can pick you out of the entire.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. All right.
Amy, it looks like I can let people in if you want to get started and count us in.
Whew, okay, well, let's make sure, first of all, everybody's muted. Okay. I'm going to also start, sorry, you guys, don't hate me, but I am going to turn the chat off because, just so until after the presentation, so we're not distracted. And okay. All right, let's see. All right. This pretty graphic. Nope. I did it again. Stop it. See, we're not perfect. We're not perfect. See?
We don't even know what you did.
You don't? You never have to know.
Okay.
Never, ever. Oh my God, I didn't prep this part. I hope this goes all right. Here we go.
Well, it's the end of the week. Now where you been? Well, now it's Feedback Friday, so come on in. Come sit down and stare at your screen. We got a presenter that you never seen. We're Feedback Friday, we're on the loose. We'll be the train, you be the caboose. It's Feedback Friday with Kathy and Amy. Mashed potatoes and the gravy. It's Feedback Friday all day long. Feedback, Feedback, Feedback Friday.
Oh my, who needs a dance collective when we have Ximena Curiel here? Wow, that was a performance. Welcome everyone, good morning. And this is Feedback Friday, episode 103. I'm Kathy Hattori, president of Botanical Colors, and joining me is Amy Dufault, our director of communications based in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. I'm here in Seattle, and through the magic of Zoom, we're bringing you our weekly show where we talk with artists, writers, scholars, activists, designers, all sorts of amazing people who are interested in plants, natural color, natural world, and textiles. I have a little thing on my script that says, should we move further up in the presentation? And that is all of our reminders. So I'm going to do that now.
Yeah, do it,
Just
Kathy.
wanted to let you know that we've got an amazing online class with John Marshall on printing Sarasa style, which is a specific Japanese style that is looking to draws its inspiration from Indian block printing, and we're doing it with vegetables with John Marshall, and that starts, I believe, in October. So I know it's hard to believe at the height of summer of thinking of the fall, but it's coming up. So if you're interested, join us there. We also have a few packages of our marsh webcap mushroom on the site for sale, and Julie Beeler, who we were speaking with just earlier, did some beautiful tests for us on that particular mushroom, which was sustainably foraged for us in Oregon. And so those are up on the site as well. And we've got this new mordant called aluminum triformate. It is a mineral mordant. And I'm giving a little 1-hour talk on it in a couple of weeks. So you could join us there and check it out. I'm in the middle of all my experiments with it. It's pretty interesting. So I'll be doing that. I think it's Wednesday, the 24th at 10 a.m. Pacific. Okay, those are our reminders. And so for just a little housekeeping, I want to talk about that Amy will be moderating and monitoring the chat. And so that's where you'll post the questions after Ximena's presentation, and we'll have everybody muted for the presentation, but we'll open it up afterwards for questions and for people to talk to each other. So I'd just like to talk a little bit about our presenter today for Feedback Friday. Ximena Curiel is from Mexico. She's joining us today from Mérida, which is in Yucatan. And she's a product designer with a science degree in biomimicry. And she's currently performing field and laboratory research on fungal pigments. So you mushroom guys and gals out there, this is your person. So from her first-hand observations, she's watched how ecosystems have degraded, while her love for all living things lead her to nurture connections between biology and design. She says she thinks not only about biomaterials, but also how to design companies that could work collaboratively, like a forest or like a mangrove. She calls herself a biopreneur, who in addition to creating holistic systems, manufactures bio-based inks for fabric printing. She has some of the most beautiful photos of mushrooms and fungi that I've ever seen. So please join me in welcoming Ximena Curiel. Ximena, bienvenidos a Feedback Friday.
Gracias, Katie. Shall I share my screen right now?
Yes, please.
Okay. And there we go. Well, I'm gonna put this right here. Thank you, Amy, Katie, and all the lovely people from Botanical Colors for inviting me today. It is an honor to be here with my mushroom. Welcome all to a bumpy road on natural color and fungal pigments. So this is where most life began. This is a photograph of a huge rock in Jalisco covered with different species of lichen. And lichens are a type of fungi, which are amazing organisms, and they create symbiotic relationships with bacteria and or algae. They secrete enzymes that are capable of breaking down rock and also metals. Therefore, they create the soil as we know it today. They are the ones responsible for the plants and the flowers that we currently use in natural dye. And this is where my interest for color began. This is a family workshop, a rock workshop in Oaxaca, in Teotitlán del Valle, and they have 429 years of history in natural dyes above their shoulders. So, mushrooms. Mushrooms are weird and colorful creatures, and the secret behind their color relies in the way they interact with light. But before I tell you the secret, allow me to briefly introduce myself. I am a product designer. I am not a biologist. I am not a chemist. I am not a textile designer. I wish I was all of those things, but I'm a product designer. And I had the chance to exhibit some of my work at the 10 London Design Week in 2014. And also I won the Star Pack Design Award from the Institute of Minerals, Materials and Mining in the UK, also in 2014. After my studies in product design, I decided to devote my life to biomimicry, which is the intersection of biology and design. And I studied a master's degree at Arizona State University. I became a climate reality leader, and I have 2 certifications in circular economy. One is a cradle to cradle certification, designing circular products for the circular economy. And the second one is from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, just in circular economy. I was a global shaper from the World Economic Forum, and I've been a university professor. I taught biomimicry and climate change to fashion and product designers in Mexico. Right now, I'm a member of the leadership circle at the Central Texas Mycological Society. Okay, so I will start by briefly introducing you to the history behind why I devote my life to biomimicry and natural color. Then I will share some of the recipes and natural dye stuffs that work best for me. And at the end, we will talk about fungal pigments. So I was born here in Mexico City, right here. But I grew up moving across my country. So after being born in Mexico City, I'm nervous. I'm sorry. Julie Villero is in the crew right now and many important people. And I just can't believe this is happening. So I'm going to take a deep breath and recover myself. I was born in Mexico City. And after that, we moved to Cabo San Lucas here in Baja California. And I've lived in Chiapas, Oaxaca, when I was introduced first to natural color. After that, I studied in Jalisco. And now, well, I live in the Yucatan Peninsula. While growing up and moving across my country, I realized that there were 2 things that were constant in every place I was. The first one were mesmerizing ecosystems, and the second one were colorful crafts. Everywhere I went, these 2 things were there. So I grew up used to see color around me, and sadly, I was not aware of the role that design plays in nature and the ecosystems from where these natural colors come from. When you're studying to become a product designer, you must work with several materials and manufacturing processes, polymers, wood, ceramics, glass, metal, and some product photographs might look like the ones we have on screen. However, little do we know about the behind the scenes of the process of creating these products. And this is a sneak peek of what happens behind the scenes. We have to use toxic chemicals. We have to use natural resources. And after growing in the jungles of Southeast Mexico, I found myself in the middle of this heartless machine, and that broke my heart. So I had an existential crisis, and I decided to travel to Chiapas again and become a nun. I am not joking. I wanted to quit everything and become a nun. However, the deeper I went into nature, the deeper I fell in love with all life forms, especially those that I could not understand. And I kept asking myself, how is it that all nature and living things thrive without an obvious effort, yet we, humans, also being nature, struggle to find peace and our place in this beautiful organism that we call planet Earth? And that's my aunt, Evangelina. And when I arrived to Chiapas, we traveled by highway from Jalisco all the way to Chiapas, crossing half of the country. And she had a conversation with me, and she told me that I was just running away. And that was true. So I was supposed to stay in Chiapas, in South Chiapas, the border with Guatemala, and become a nun. But I realized that my aunt was right, And I was just running away, hiding myself from the unbearable truth that I could make a difference somehow, that I had the responsibility and resources to do so. Being a product designer, being inside this heartless machine, I could change things. So the pain of realizing that the problem was just the beginning of a lifelong journey sparked my curiosity to make a difference. I went back and graduated from one of the most voracious and polluting disciplines. However, I am smiling in that photograph because before I graduated, I was introduced to one of the loves of my life, a way to respect these mesmerizing ecosystems, but also being creative. The first lady on screen is my dear friend, Dr. Giovanna Trotta. She has a PhD in product design and biomimicry by the University of Turin. And the other two amazing women on screen are Dr. Dana Baumeister and Jenny Bennett. They are the founders of the Biomimicry Thinking Methodology and the Biomimicry Institute. And for any of you that is not familiar with biomimicry, well, it means to emulate life. It comes from bios, which means life, and mimicry, which means to emulate. And it's a way in which we quiet our human minds and ask nature, how shall we do things? How do we create color? How does nature create color? How does nature create these structures, trees, the wood? We can think of it as 3D printing on demand at the time you need it to be there. So biomimicry is quite amazing in the way we learn to understand nature. And this is the second love of my life. So while studying my master's degree, I got pregnant and I had to rest the last semester because this tiny hyperactive creature came by. And another key moment in my life happened because I found myself again with natural color, and natural color conquered my soul forever. Motherhood, breastfeeding, teaching at a university, and studying the master's degree were just too much to bear all at once. So anxiety and depression came along, uninvited, and I found myself struggling harshly to perform at daily life. In this photograph, I'm being comforted by my mother and embraced by 429 years of tradition in natural life. All those rocks you see and the pillow on top of me, I bought them in Teotitlán del Valle. They've been with me all my life. So I decided to leave the madness and focus on natural color. After taking a break, one semester, because of my child and motherhood and everything, I had to go back to school and graduate as a biomimicry professional. So I chose the subject of my thesis to be a sustainable fashion manufacturing process or company. Where natural colors are not one choice among others with synthetic dyes, but are the only choice. The creature we see on screen, it is a sea creature and it's called a pelagic siphonophore. And the reason I chose it is because each member of this organism has the capacity and the genetic resources to become anything they want. So most of the times, as women or as members of a productive society and an economy, we have to find our places or listen to everybody else tell us what we have to do. And nature behaves differently. So they have the resources to become the mouth or the intestines or the reproductive parts. And I thought, why not designing a manufacturing company, a fashion industry, in which every worker, regardless of what they are currently doing, have the power to become what they want to do, not what we say or ask them to do. These organisms, like many things in nature, work in a decentralized way. They do not have a brain that controls everything. They self-organize and they have this decentralized intelligence, that makes them thrive and adapt to all changing conditions. This is a photograph of this organism, and it measures 15 meters long. Now, how the pelagic siphonophore relates to the fashion industry? Well, I always thought of fashion as shallow. However, the clothes we use express who we are and what we care about. And as women, we've always been judged by our clothes. The male gaze and the demand for women to fit into a perfect, defined stereotype has devoured many lives, from models to garment workers. These photographs are from the Rana Plaza tragedy in 2013, where more than 1,000 people were killed because of bad infrastructure and centralized manufacturing. This is a photograph of all the people that died, all the families that were shocked by the tragedy. And centralized manufacturing is a problem, especially when the infrastructure being centralized is bad design. There is a less known tragedy that is also happening in the fashion industry, and is where natural color really plays a key role in changing things. This is a photograph of the Santiago River in the north part of Guadalajara, the capital of Jalisco here in Mexico. And all that foam that we see is because of phosphate in the water. High concentrations of phosphate create this horrible foam that is depleting the ecosystem and the lives of the people surrounding the area. There is a growing textile and manufacturing industry of fashion in Jalisco. And all the water that they use goes directly into the river, and the river then connects to the ocean, to the Pacific Ocean. So all of these synthetic dyes and pollutants are going across the state of Jalisco. And of course, this happens in many parts of the world. This is the Wubao dyeing industrial zone in China, where the foam, the dyes, and everything has changed the color of the river, and people still has to live there and find a living and find a way to thrive despite, well, the depleted ecosystems where they are. Connecting these learnings on the fashion industry and how fast fashion is depleting the ecosystem and creating carcinogenic compounds that affect the health of not only the workers, but also the users of the clothing, I went back to biomimicry and I realized that nature uses green chemistry. Nature does not pollute itself. It creates amazing colors that last for a lifetime. In the case of butterflies, as long as a butterfly lives. In the case of a flower, as long as a flower lives. However, they do not use heavy metals. Nature uses water as a solvent, and it relies on the chemical structure of the compounds to create color. Why are synthetic dyes such a threat for the health and the ecosystem? Well, on the left, we can see a molecule. This is an azo dye. It's called RR120. And this molecule is quite big. Natural molecules are not that big. If the body is absorbing a molecule that size, it will not be able to break it down, metabolize it, and secrete it. It will stay in your body. It will stay on your skin, liver, and also in the kidneys. However, on the right, we can see the chemical structure of the carminic acid from the cochineal. And we can observe that it is a small molecule. And also, it only has oxygen, hydrogen, and carbon atoms. However, azo dyes also have nitrogen. These chemical compounds are really hard to break down for every mammal and everybody. And what's even worse is that chemists have designed these chemical compounds using these tiny things that are called aromatic rings. And the aromatic rings are carcinogenic from these dyes because they have the same chemical structure that plants and human hormones. So they go inside the body. We detect them as if they were hormones, so we absorb them. However, once they are inside, we cannot break them down. Carcinogenic aromatic amines are linked to bladder and liver cancers in humans, growth reduction, neurosensory damage. They create also metabolic stress in fish, and they can even inhibit plant growth. 80% of the water pollution worldwide comes from the textile industry. So this is an aromatic ring that we observe here in the molecules. I will not go too deep into the chemistry, I swear, but I believe this is important. And these are some chemical structures of human and plant hormones. So the growth of plants in humans, the flowering, and even the photosynthesis process can be interrupted by the accumulation of synthetic dye molecules in the water, in the plants, and in our bodies. I will give you a few minutes to read this because it's as far as synthetic dye molecules can go. On the second paragraph, it explains that it could even create damage in the nervous system in humans, and it could even damage the DNA structure. The helical structure of the DNA can be broken down by synthetic dye. It is truly a health hazard that we have to attend. It's horrible. So after knowing all of this while studying my master's degree and getting ready for my thesis, I did what every strong, independent woman had to do at the time, and I cried. Oh my God, did I cry? I cried a lot because I understood that the problem was really complex, and it was, fast fashion was sort of this death machine that we had to redesign from the inside. So I decided to tackle one thing at a time and become an empirical chemist. So I took over my house, and one of the rooms, I turned it into a, well, yes, kind of chemical natural dye workshop place to experiment. This photograph is from one of my first attempts to create long pieces of fabric, screen printed with natural dyes. And the ink I used there is from black tea. I made it with black tea and the base ink that I make, and use it as a screen printing paste. I devoted my days and my nights to research about many ways to create natural color. And of course, turmeric was the first option, creating this bright yellow. If you alter the turmeric, you know, it's very sensitive to pH changes. And with an alkaline base, I could have these sorts of reddish brown color. I also experimented with henna. That henna is mostly used on wool, but with the ink base that I make, I could manage it to stay on the cotton fabric. I also created purples with indigo and cochineal, which is no secret, and is amazingly color fastness and wash fastness as well. I used anato, Brixa orellana, that we eat it a lot in Mexico, to create a bright orange as well. This is a indigo stone from Oaxaca, from Santiago Nitepec. And of course, paprika was a total failure. I never used it again. But I was just experimenting with things that I had at hand, because I have a son, so I didn't want to use any toxic chemicals at all. This ink is from black tea. This is another photograph with my samples. We can see the henna on the left, and even closer on the right, this beautiful mossy green that henna can give. Indigo and cochineal closer. The anato, the Brixa orellana oranges, bright oranges, and the bright yellow of turmeric. I kept making samples and experimenting with the boundaries of design. I realized that these inks perform better with, well, geometric or organic forms, not so much with details or thin lines. These inks are made with indigo and cochineal, this purple. The pink one is pure cochineal. The yellow one is from marigold, a native species that we have, its name Taguete spatula. And this bright mossy green is not henna, but red rose petals. I will explain how rose petals can give a green in a minute. And this brown is also made from black tea pigment. This is another photograph of some of my samples, and I created this black ink using tannic acid and iron oxides because we do not have a near source of getting oak galls. So it is really hard to get tannic acid in a natural form. So I made an experiment using, well, chemically induced tannic acid with iron to create a deep black. However, I do not love the idea of using synthetic chemicals. That was just a test to see if I could create a deep black. This is on the left, we can observe the tannic acid before being submerged into an iron solution and turning into this deep black. And these are samples of the work that I made to a client, for a client, sorry. The first one is black tea ink, the tannic acid and iron ink. And this rusty orange is anato, achiote, mixed with iron. Iron, as you may know, has the capacity to transform the colors. And I achieved this rusty kind of iron oxide color using achiote, anato, as the base of the ink and altering it with iron. Of course, I did samples with Arabic gum to see how these inks could perform on paper. And I kept doing more tests to see the limits of the design because clients most of the times wanted to print letters, phrases, or thin lines. So I had to keep working on ways to make these inks perform better. I even did some tests with earth pigments. This is a type of moth that is called barro colorado. It's from Jalisco. And if you grind it really, really, really finely grinded powder, you can mix it with sort of a cream base. And by mordanting the cotton fabric with soy milk, you can attach these, well, earth hues inks into the cotton fabric. However, they do wash away because they do not create this chemical bound or, well, this electric bound with the fabric. So it is really hard to work with earth pigments, at least in my experience. On the right, we can see that every time the inks were performing better. This is cochineal eel on top of a black tea ink. All I use is a screen printing. That's the method I use, the technique. These are also samples of another base. This ink here has a different recipe, it's a different formula from the one we can see here. And the black tea pigment behaved better on this ink, on this formula, and it stayed on the fabric after washing it. I kept doing experiments with achiote on cotton fabric and 100% recycled cotton fabric. And my house was just a huge, messy natural workshop and screen printing workshop because I had a customer that really wanted long pieces of fabric to be printed with the inks of iron and tannic acid and black tea. That's me working on my workshop. And now I would like to share with you the color sources that prove to be better. I'm not sure if in the place you are, you can find mahawa flowers, which is a type of hibiscus. However, what I loved about it is that it has the capacity to give you a deep black, a quite mossy green, some sort of grape, purple, reddish color, and also a beige on wool. Cochineal, we know it's the best. You can get a beautiful pink, a beautiful red, if you alter the pH of the medium you are using with sodium carbonate or with ash. And it can also give you a deep black. If you mix cochineal with iron, you will get a beautiful black. Cochineal with indigo, you can get any purple you want, basically, by altering the quantities of indigo and cochineal. And if you use turmeric, you can have this bright yellow. You can also have a purple brownish color that if you add vinegar to this purple reddish brownish color, you can get again this beautiful yellow. I found that as a way to introducing my son to natural dyes, because turmeric is really safe to use unless you are allergic. He is not. So every time I was working on the workshop, he had the turmeric ink playing around with vinegar and changing the colors. And that was something really, really beautiful that I use with my son. And now with his friends, when they come over, they start playing with natural color. And I believe it's important to show the children how they can do water-based chemistry, how they can change color, and getting them involved and falling in love with nature and the ways we can learn from it to apply it into an industry or design or anything. The annatto seeds are amazing to create this bright orange. And also henna proved to be really light fast on cotton, giving this mossy, a little bit dull, but mossy, beautiful green. These are the mahawa flowers. When they are young, they look bright yellow, and as they grow older, they become this reddish color, really beautiful. And once they fell from the tree, they even look black. That's why they have the color. They have high concentrations of anthocyanins that when altering the pH, you can get all these colors from them. Cochineal, of course, this is an indigo farm in Oaxaca, in Santiago Niltepec. And well, this is a photograph of Bonampak, one Mayan ruins that are in Chiapas. And this beautiful indigo blue is created with some clay. They had this, oh, I forgot the word in English, but they had these roots to exchange raw materials. And from Yucatan, the original clay that they use in Chiapas comes from Yucatan. And they create the Mayan blue by mixing this clay with the indigo and heating them so that the indigo liquefies, changes its form, physical form, sort of say, and invades the clay so they can apply it on the walls. Annatto seeds, of course, that you can find in any place where they sell Mexican food. You go for achiote and you will get all the achiote that you want. Aloe vera, I use it as a first way to experiment as a binder or a base ink to add the pigment to. And this is the henna powder that even in places of natural beauty products, you can find the powder. So coming back to the journey and how did I go from plants to fungi? Something kept happening while I was doing my experiments. And every time I found this beautiful, there we go. Every time I found a beautiful deep purple or blue, the color changed when I added the pigment to my inks. So I was going crazy because I needed a feasible solution for the textile industry. Ink that changes color was not going to work for my clients. So this is the mahawa flowers, and these are all the colors. By slightly altering the pH, you can get this mossy green or black or the reddish, as I told you. And the reason behind these changes is because they have chemical compounds, mostly anthocyanins and many others, that change when you alter the pH. So these are the petunia flowers that I used in this experiment to see how this beautiful blue goes to a deep indigo, this beautiful property goes to a deep indigo blue by adding some sodium bicarbonate and altering the pH of the ink. And I have a confession to make. I was born with a curse. I am too curious. So this kept haunting me at night, and I couldn't sleep if I couldn't understand why color was changing and how these molecules were behaving differently, because I extracted a pigment, and when I added it to the ink, everything changed. So I learned that pigments in flowers are created in the chloroplast and in the vacuole inside the cell. However, this pigment concentration is determined by the nutrient uptake of the plant. And the nutrient uptake of the plants is determined by fungi. So I went deep into the path of mushrooms again, and endophytic fungi plays a key role in the nutrient uptake of plants, especially nitrogen and phosphorus. And the concentrations of nitrogen and phosphorus determine whether the flower is going to be yellow, whether it's going to be red, or a mixture of both of them. This is very fast, an image of what is endophytic fungi. So mushrooms are really, really diverse, and there are type of mushrooms which they live in the roots of the plants, and these are called endophytic fungi. They can live between the cells. They enter the root and they go deep into the cells of the plants. They can live inside the cells, or they can live inside and outside the cells. There are different types of endophytic fungi, but they are these little channels, sort of say, that absorb the nutrients from the soil and inject them directly into the cell of the plants. That's the importance of endophytic fungi. They can determine the color of the flower of the plants. Well, so far, I've talked about my personal history, some natural color resources, and flowers plus fungi. So please be patient with me. We are going to the mushrooms for color. And if we are going to talk about mushrooms and color, we have to honor the memory of Miriam Rice. If somebody does not know this, the first one to experiment with mushrooms for color was Miriam Rice. She studied sculpture at the Art Student League in New York, and then she became a professor at the University of Rochester, also in New York. The story says that one day she was teaching a natural dye workshop at the Mendocino Art Center in California, and she saw a beautiful bright clump of mushrooms. The species is Hippoloma fasciculare. So she grabbed them and tossed them into the dye pot where there were yarns of wool, and a bright yellow color appeared. And that was the moment when mushrooms for color appeared in the first time in history. And to be brief, you can purchase online this book, Mushrooms for Dyes, Papers, Pigments, and Microsticks. Microsticks are crayons made with mushroom pigments extracts. And this is to honor Miriam Rice. She passed away in 2010. And we can see this beautiful, beautiful rainbow of mushrooms colors. Every color in this rainbow comes from mushrooms. So thank you, Miriam Rice. We honor. Mycopigments also, Alisa Allen, one of the heiress of mushroom color is Sweet Alisa. She founded Mycopigment. Oh, what's going on with my photographs? There they are. She founded Mycopigments more than 12 years ago, and since she was 5 years old, she became familiar to mushrooms and lichens as a way to extract color. She's the founder of the Facebook group Mushroom and Lichen Dyers United, and she offers workshops worldwide. She recently was in Oaxaca. Here she is with a Zapotec family, because the workshops she offers does not only teach the participants, but also the Zapotec communities in the mountains in Oaxaca, where they can learn how to identify mushrooms for color, forage them in a responsible way, and create colors to have new sources and create these beautiful rocks of the Zapotec tradition. They usually use indigo and cochineal, cempasúchil, marigold too. But now, thanks to Alisa, they are learning how to forage mushrooms that are abundant in the mountains of Oaxaca and create rocks using mushroom dyes on wool. She did this workshop in collaboration with the power couple of Kim Hunter and Zachary Lowell. Zachary is a chef and he's a member of the North American Mycological Society as well. And his fiance, Kim, she has an initiative of responsible collaborating with artisans worldwide. She's been in Thailand and now she's working with artisans in Oaxaca. And at the end of the talk, I can give you the Instagrams or the email accounts so you can talk to them, because next year on summer, July, yes, they are offering more workshops and experiences with the people in Oaxaca. And it's amazing because you go to the mountains, you forage mushrooms, you separate the mushrooms for dyes and the mushrooms to eat, you cook and you dye. Well, you don't dye, but you dye. This is Kim with Alisa and the rainbow of colors they found from the lichens in the mountains of Oaxaca. It was really amazing because people, the Zapotec community, have never experienced with mushrooms. They know them and they can identify the species they can eat, but they had no idea they could have these amazing colors from the resources they already have. Here they are working with lichens and with hippoloma mushrooms too. And of course, Julie Diller had to be in the presentation. She is amazing in the work she has done with the Mushroom Color Atlas. I know she already had a feedback session with botanical colors, but the way she documents so precisely every color that comes from every mushroom and the medium you can use to achieve certain specific hues of this color on a medium, it's just amazing. And this is an online free access platform. So thank you, Julie. We honor thee. So those were my inspirations when I first tried to experiment with mushrooms for color. And I looked around in the place I am and started to identify potential mushroom dyes. And this species is called Tramete sanguinea, and you can achieve this beautiful mustardy yellow on cotton, which is strange because most mushrooms are perfect for wool protein fibers because mushrooms are made from protein, so they bond into the protein really good. So it's difficult to find mushrooms that stay on cotton. Sorry. However, Tramete sanguinea is a type of mushroom that devours wood. It's a white rot fungus, sort of say, and you can find it almost everywhere and even culture it and grow it in a laboratory. This is a shibori sample that I made. Also shibori from Ramaria. Now, Ramaria, as most of the species of mushrooms used for color, have symbiotic relationship with trees. So you cannot grow them in the laboratory. You will need to recreate the whole forest, which will be beautiful and amazing, but takes a long time. And other thing with Tramete sanguinea is that first you have this beautiful yellow, but after you dye and dye and dye again and have the fifth dye bath, you get this dull, still beautiful, but dull beige. So again, clients were very reluctant to the colors I was accomplishing. And I thought about going back to flowers because I had already experience with them and had some samples. However, thinking about scaling operations represented the danger of monocultures and water use and land use. So I was between this dilemma of going back to flowers or doing more research about mushrooms. And since I'm cursed with curiosity and a little bit of hyperactivity, I decided to go deeper into the mushroom path. This is what I was telling you about, the symbiotic relationship. Mushrooms, this is Cordinaria sanguineus or Dermosaides, that the new name it has is Dermosaides. And they have these tiny, tiny filaments in which they embrace the root of the tree and they take sugars and other nutrients from the tree. So you cannot grow them in the laboratory because they feed from the tree and the tree feeds from them. It's not a parasitic mushroom, no. It is a symbiotic relationship. that we cannot recreate in the laboratory. Cortinarius sanguineus are this type of ectomycorrhizal fungi, and they have the symbiotic relationship with birch, aspen, hemlock, and balsam fir. So again, I went out, I kept doing research about fungi, and I discovered this type of mushrooms. This crusty type of thing on the wood is called Hypoxylum anthochronum. And this type of fungi grows widely in neotropical forests, the place where I am. On the right, we can observe a pigment extraction using a solvent that is potassium hydroxide with water. Everything is water-based, but you just find a way to extract this pigment. And as you can observe, it is really deep and bright color. I kept doing experiments, gathering more mushrooms that decompose wood. That's a good thing. You can grow them in the lab because they can fit almost on anything, and creating these inks to test them on recycled cotton. Results were good. I also have experience with annual hypoxylon, which is another mushroom growing here. They are widely dispersed and very diverse. And I achieved this kind of yellowish beige on cotton. And also with Hypoxylon petriniac. I guess this is more widely spread even in northern forests where there are no tropical ecosystems for most forests, whole forests, and achieve this silver gray and a dark gray from the same mushroom, just altering the concentrations of the pigment. And I'm almost done. I'm taking a little bit longer, I'm sorry. Also Phaeolus schwennitzi, which is the famous dyer's polypore that gives this bright yellow. When I was back in Oaxaca a few weeks ago in the workshop of a native rock family from the Zapotec people, we made samples and we mixed the extract of this mushroom Phaeolus schwennitzi with cochineal, which gave us this bright, like lipstick red, and also with indigo, creating a green color. And we test the inks on wool, and they perform well, so we're very happy. And this is the famous Phaeolus schwennitzi, or dyer's polypore. That is a mushroom that we did not know that lives in the mountains in Oaxaca, and now we know, and we're very happy. So just to finish this presentation, why mushrooms are so great with color? What is the secret behind mushrooms for color? Well, mushrooms create pigments outside the cell, giving them the color on molds or fruiting bodies, like the umbrellas we know as mushrooms. This is a Cortinarius. But they also create pigments inside the cell. And this is where the beautiful magic happens, because light creates light. And when light is absorbed by the cell of the mushroom, it triggers a cellular response to create these pigments. And the amazing thing about these molecules is that they also have nitrogen. And nitrogen is an element that gives these compounds more stability and light fastness, because it creates a stronger bond between the carbon atoms of the molecule. So a little announcement. In Central Texas Mycological Society in Austin, Texas, soon you will be able to purchase Chamete sanguinea to dye. They are growing it in the laboratory. Here are the first petri dishes of mycelium. And on November 17th, I will give a talk, a lecture on fungal pigments, also for Central Texas Mycological Society. And I will go deeper into the chemistry and the biology of why mushrooms change color from yellow to blue, and how many molds worldwide have the capacity to give these beautiful, beautiful colors for fabric. And that will be all. Thank you very much.
Oh, Ximena, that was amazing. That was so great to see your journey from, wow. Yeah, your journey from running around to focusing and really, really making those conscious decisions to deeply, deeply dive into these different, very important subject matters. Thank you so much. And I'm going to turn this over to Amy to ask you some questions from our audience.
Yes. Thank you. And I'm so happy that I know you were so nervous, but you did a great job. And I just want to know that publicly. You're amazing. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
So Samantha's asking, or saying, thank you for a great presentation. Are the mushrooms that give the best color of the edible variety or poison for humans, or is this mixed?
Well, they are not necessarily poisonous, but they are not edible. The thing with mushrooms is that they are made of chitin. Chitin is the same compound we have in our nails. So chitin is really, really tough. Most mushrooms that are classified as edible, they are not necessarily lacking of toxins, but they have the consistency to be chewed by us because they are really tough. So when it comes to mushrooms for dyes, they are not edible because they are tough or they are strong or they do not have a nutritious value for us, but they are not toxic. As far as I know, they are not toxic. Very few mushroom species are toxic, and there is no one rule to define whether a mushroom is toxic or edible because they create different compounds, even in the same family of mushrooms. From one species to another species, the chemical compounds they create are very different. So do not eat the mushrooms for color, but if you use them, you will not get poisoned.
Okay.
I hope I answered.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. Robin saying, please repeat the solvent you mentioned for a brown mushroom pigment, and it was potassium something.
Potassium hydroxide. I'll put it here. Potassium hydroxide. Actually, when I go out on foraging missions in the field, I bring with me a little droplet, potero, with this solution. And if you put a drop of it in the mushrooms, and if they change color, that means that you can use them to dye.
Oh, wow. That's a nice way to bypass,
Yes.
I don't know, like getting a big pot of it going. Okay. Let's see. Amy's asking, are all your prints from screen printing?
Yes. Everything I do is screen printing.
They're so good.
Hi, thank you.
Let's see. Will you be at ASU is it tempeh? Or is that a soybean meat?
No, what I did,
Tempeh.
you can use store-bought soy milk, or you can create your own soy milk. I guess it was, I don't remember the proportion, but if you Google it, it's very easy to make the soy solution to more than the cotton fabric. However, it becomes quite stiff. I don't like that.
I think maybe I was being silly with my talking about meat alternative, but somebody's asking, are you going to be at Arizona State University tempeh?
Tempeh, the campus.
Tempeh,
No,
not the meat alternative.
No, not the edible tempeh. No, I'm not going to be there anytime soon because the program was held online. The master degree is only an online program. So I didn't go there. And now that I have the Sputnik vaccine, I cannot enter the US. So I don't know when I'm going to be able to go.
Oh, boy. Well, so I knew somebody had to ask this question. So Joan's saying, excellent presentation. Thank you so much. Do you have any concerns about depleting mushrooms as this way of dyeing grows? Have you thought about that, the balance or how it could be done?
Of course, and that is a beautiful question because not so many people ask that. They go like, oh, mushrooms for dye, chop, 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 chop. No, there is a way to forage mushrooms. First, there is no problem with cutting mushrooms from the forest, but you have to know when to do it. So mushrooms, the umbrellas, my eyes wander because I'm looking for mushrooms, but I remember that I have them downstairs, so I cannot show them to you. However, these little umbrellas, they are the fruiting bodies of the main mushroom. The true mushroom is the mycelium, the one we cannot see and is underground. So the living organism is the mycelium. The mushrooms are just the fruiting bodies. You have to wait until the umbrella, so to say the cup of the mushroom is wide open, because that's when the spores are released. The spores are the way in which mushrooms reproduce. So They go with the wind, they go with the rain. And when you find a mushroom that has the cap wide open, you can cut them and use them for dyes. Try to use baskets made of natural fibers because the pores in the basket help the spores go traveling in the forest. And as you walk, you are like planting seeds of mushrooms, sort of say. And just be careful with the mushrooms that have this symbiotic relationship with trees. Always cover back the mycelium. You should chop them at the base and put some earth, dirt, or dead leaves on top of the mycelium because light can affect it. But there is no problem with foraging mushrooms for dyes. Just do it when they are wide open so they can release the spores. And when it comes to saprophytic or saprobic species, like Dyer's polypore or Chametes sanguinea, you have to be responsible because those spores can attack other trees. So you can cut the Dyer's polypore, but just make sure to keep it isolated from many other trees because it can attack a healthy tree. They're very fierce.
Okay. Let's see. I just put your Instagram link in the chat so you guys can follow Ximena. Let's see. Beautiful work. Thank you for your great presentation. So do the changes in colors from flowers depend on the type or amount of lichens and fungus in them?
Okay. So this is normal. We all confuse mushrooms, fungi are crazy. Lichens do not have a symbiotic relationship with plants. They live on the trunks of trees or they grow on rocks. So lichens do not play a role in the color of the flowers because they don't have this relationship with plants. Endophytic fungi, the ones that we cannot see but are deep into the roots of the plants, they do play a role in the color of the flower because they are the ones that decide the amounts of phosphorus or nitrogen that the plant will absorb. And these compounds, nitrogen and phosphorus, are the ones that determine the color of the flower. So the mushrooms that we cannot see that naturally grow on the soil, that's why it's so important to preserve the soil, are the ones that determine the color of the flowers.
Okay. There's so many questions. I'm like,
Bring it on.
Kathy, do you, I know we're past the hour, but what do you?
Why don't we take 2 more questions?
2 more? Okay. All right.
Yep.
Let's see. Okay, we just asked you that one. There was a good one about, could somebody have an allergic reaction to, I'm trying to find allergic reaction to using these for textiles?
Okay. Not truly because, well, it comes to mushrooms, they do not have toxins. The dye species, they do not have these toxins. So you cannot have a reaction. It could happen because life is crazy and everybody is different, but it is not something that has a high probability of happening. The main toxic species of mushrooms, they do not give dye. And even if they would, we will not use them. So I don't think so. One thing that happens with plants, as you know, and flowers that have this pigment and color potential is that these molecules are also medicinal. So it's quite the opposite. Hypoxylons, the group of mushrooms that I use, they have proven to even have cytotoxic effects. That means they can kill cancer. Some laboratories in the United States are working with Daldinia extracts, which is like a little ball, a mushroom, to create medicine for cancer treatment. So it's quite the opposite because pigments that give us this bright color have the function, the main function of some of them is to protect from UV damage and to regenerate the DNA in the cell of the mushrooms.
So interesting.
DNA.
Okay, let me ask one more, Kathy.
One more,
because
these are fantastic.
Yeah, I know. There's so many questions I have too, but
you can send them to my Instagram and I will answer all of the questions.
You know, the questions that don't get answered here, I'll go through them and I'll send them to you and we can add them to the video recording, kind of a little Q&A at the bottom. But somebody was asking about the thickener that you use for the printing ink. What it is.
My business associate forbids me to say that because we are scaling up operations and we are going to sell the inks commercially. But if you want to try screen printing on paper, you can use maicena is what we call it in Spanish. Corn flour.
Oh, maicena.
Maicena, yes.
Yeah, it's a corn flour.
Corn flour, yes.
Is it
powder.
Corn starch? No.
Cornstarch, yes.
Cornstarch.
For paper, you can use cornstarch or Arabic gum. And you can experience with most gums. I'm not sure if my inks are going to be the best ones, but if you can experiment with everything you have at hand that can serve as a thickener, even aloe vera or cacti, nopal, cacti juice, I believe that could also work.
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Great.
All right, thank you. Thank you
for all this information. We're all like, I saw a bunch of people like, I need to process all this information and sit with it. It was great. There was just so much, as always, to learn about natural dyeing and different ways you can use it, access it, protect it, sustainably forage it. So thank you.
Excellent. All right, so everybody's going to need to take a breath. And let's go ahead and unmute. Ximena, again, our deepest thanks for this amazing presentation and telling us your journey. And we're so excited to hear what you've been doing and really interested to hear what you'll be doing next. So make sure we know where your next, I know you wrote it down on that slide where your presentations are. So we'll make sure that we add that to the calendar as well. Yep. And thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ximena.
Oh, thank you. My honor.
So beautiful.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Oh.
It's so cute. I always like it if you like, I'm looking at you guys as a gallery, but I know if you just have it on the speaker mode, it's just like these flashes of people saying thank you. It's like this kind of, you're about to go on the way out of life, but you're like these flashes of life. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank
Hi, Oriel. All right, Kathy, would you want to stop the recording?
Sure, I will do that. Recording is being stopped. Where is it? Oh, there it is.